I've given Iceland 4 perfect defenders. Each of them has a current ability of 200 out of 200, which essentially means they are the best players to have ever lived. They've got 16 out of 20 for every single attribute, aside from a few which I think are a bit more important to their specific role. And I've given them to Valor Reykjavik, who have one of the best badges in world football. But the question you're all asking me is, why? Why, Tom? Well, you see, we did a very similar experiment where we gave the perfect spine of a team to San Marino to see if those 4 players could help them win a World Cup or a European Championships. And that they were rubbish. They did absolutely nothing, essentially. So we've chosen Iceland today, a team capable of getting to international competitions, but aren't really capable of winning them. Unless the final is against England, of course, because they can beat England pretty easily. And so will this perfect defence be able to stop the likes of Brazil, Germany and Spain to win a World Cup? I mean, these 4 young defenders are essentially the best players of all time. But the right centre-back, he's actually pretty good at another game as well. You see, his 20 natural fitness, his 20 determination, and his 16 crossing, they all help him to be the best player in the world at Raid Shadow Legends. Some say taking Dover from the National League to the Premier League is a challenge, but I say a real challenge is the Doom Tower. The Doom Tower is basically a giant prison, and locked up inside are the enemies of the Arbiter. After thousands of years, the tower is failing and the Arbiter can't keep them inside on their own. So it's up to us to keep these guys in line. We'll need an army of champions if we're going to be successful here. The best way to level up your champions is by farming XP through the campaign, which happens to be my favourite part of the game. I'm very narrative and story focused when it comes to playing games. The lower floors of the Doom Tower should be pretty easy to get by, but we're going to need some serious champions and specialists if we're going to beat the bosses. And I'll let you in to a secret. If we're going to be able to beat bosses like the Scarab King, we're going to need a few special mechanics to get past them. If we attack them without the shield buff, the whole team is getting wrecked. One way to improve our champions is with Raid's new feature, Awakening, and a brutal new dungeon, the Iron Twins Fortress. If you can take down the Iron Twins, you'll see a huge payoff being able to awaken your champion and choose a powerful blessing which can transform how they perform in battle. But I have some big news. Someone who might help us along our way is the all-new Ultimate Death Knight, a superpowered legendary version of Death Knight. And you can get him for free by just logging in and playing for 7 days between now and October 27th. So there's never been a better time to get started with Raid Shadow Legends. Plus, if you use promo code DKRises, you get a bunch of free items to level up your new strongest champions all the way to level 50. And if you still haven't started playing Raid yet, you can click on my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get unique bonuses worth $30. Get a free epic champion in Ina, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard. Okay, they are being very generous. I think if I was you, I would head down into the description, download Raid Shadow Legends from my link, and claim those rewards. I mean, this guy's now fuming that he's actually got to play football matches rather than Raid Shadow Legends. If he could, he'd just play Raid all day, but he's got a World Cup to win with Iceland. Let's see how they get on. So we've gone 5 years into the future. The players are now 23 years old, and I've just gone to find them in game by typing in Perfect because that's their name. And it seems to be that the game now thinks that Perfect is a very normal Icelandic name because there are a load of people called Perfect, and they're all regens. Regen, this 27-year-old is a regen, so the game now thinks that Perfect is just a name. Anyway, as you can see looking across, 3 of them have signed for Atletico Madrid and 1 for Chelsea, which I find bizarre. Do Atletico Madrid have a link with Valor in Iceland? I've not got Madrid loaded up in this database though, so I can't actually move myself to Madrid to check their affiliates. So if anyone knows if there's a link between Valor and Atletico Madrid, let me know down in the comments, because I googled it and it comes up with basically nothing. We will look at these players' careers come the end of the experiment. Right now we're just focusing on what Iceland have done in international competitions, and well, they're 43rd in world rankings, but they've dropped down. They were 28th, they're now 43rd, which it doesn't sound that great. Starting off in 2021 then, they played 3 World Cup qualifiers, lost 2 and drew 1, which was not ideal, really. Following the creation of these perfect players though, you can see they only lost 1 game in World Cup qualifiers and kept 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clean sheets. So these defenders are having a big impact. Now, I don't think because of these poor results here, they're going to qualify automatically for the World Cup. They might go through to the playoffs, which they did, and lost to Wales. You hate to see it, losing that one there 3-1 in extra time. The players capitulating in those final 30 minutes. UEFA Nations League football, though, went pretty well, conceding a few goals, losing to Serbia, but keeping some clean sheets as well, which is not too bad. That might be enough for promotion, you know. European qualifiers went pretty well, although the odd loss to Croatia is understandable because it's Croatia. They're very, very good. That might be enough to qualify, though, and it was enough to qualify. They got out of the group stage, but then lost to Denmark, which is frustrating. They also didn't get promoted in the UEFA Nations League, and with a loss to Montenegro and draws to Bosnia and Ukraine, that's also not enough to get promoted again. So not the best of years in 2024 for Iceland. 25, oh dearie me. Portugal and Hungary inflicting some big defeats here on Iceland, and a draw with North Macedonia was not ideal. You can't even blame the attackers for not scoring goals here. Like, I was expecting to keep a lot of clean sheets and these guys to win 1-0 because of this defence, but the defenders are letting us down big time here. And 3 of them played in this defeat to Portugal. They just couldn't keep some clean sheets. It's not ideal, and 2026 so far, not much going on. Okay, 10 years in the future now, and there's still a bunch of players called Perfect coming through from Iceland, which is just fantastic. We still see 3 players at Atletico Madrid and 1 player at Chelsea. So they've not moved around despite being 28 years old. They've been at these clubs for a long, long time. Iceland's world ranking is 40th, and at one point they got to 28th in the world, which isn't too bad, but they're languishing right now. Basically, this means they haven't won a World Cup yet. Going back to 2026, oh my word, what an awful season for them. They did get promoted to the top flight of the UEFA Nations League, but this does suggest they're going straight back down again. Not a great year for them. 27, they didn't qualify for a World Cup, obviously, but the European qualifiers went pretty well, and I'd like to think that's enough to get through into the European Championships, where they had an abysmal time against Slovenia, Austria, and Germany. Ugh. And actually, they didn't get relegated from the UEFA Nations League, but they will do this time around. Look at that, abysmal, just the 1 point against the Czech Republic. 2028 is a year to forget, and as I click on these, I can't just see the full team list, so I don't know if these players have played in these games, but if we go further forward, we'll be able to find out if these players are still playing. 2029 World Cup qualifiers went pretty well, but defeats to France and a draw to the Faroe Islands is very poor for them. I think it means they've got to go through the playoffs again, or not even reach the playoffs. No playoff result there. They just didn't qualify for anything. So no World Cup again for Iceland. But UEFA Nations League Group B, so they did get relegated in the B level. They've done pretty well there. Should be enough for promotion. So they're a bit of a yo-yo side between the A League and the B League in the UEFA Nations League. And obviously in 2031, the year we're in right now, they've started off pretty well. The main thing is they are all still playing, as you can see here in this 1-0 win against Croatia. They're all playing in the team, which is a good sign. So we're going to go another 5 years into the future to 2036, 15 years into the future. The players will be 33 years old. However, I don't think they'll still be playing in the national team, and that's because once a player hits like 32 years old, they just seem to get dropped from the national team, regardless of how good they actually are, which is really weird. These guys are the 4 best players in the world. We locked their attributes in. They still have 200 current ability, but I guarantee you they won't be in the national team. And interestingly, the players are still at Chelsea and Atletico Madrid, and none of them have moved clubs. They've been at Atletico the entire time, which is bizarre because they all have a hidden attribute of 1 loyalty. So maybe 1 is they stay at the club forever and 20 is they move around. But I thought it was the other way around. I thought if you had 1 loyalty, you move club every season, basically. Anyway, let's actually look through these players and their careers now. You can see the bravery has dropped here for the right centre-back, and that will be because of some injuries they picked up. Injuries do affect bravery. They start to decrease the bravery attribute there if they get some bad injuries, which is not ideal for the right centre-back. But 449 appearances for Chelsea and 45 goals is not bad. Plus 112 caps for Iceland. I'd say that's a pretty good career, right? Oh, the lowest average rating this player has ever got is a 7.29 in his second season at Chelsea. and that's the worst. The left centre-back is at Atletico Madrid, 493 appearances, 49 goals and 98 caps for Iceland. And again, looking down these average ratings, I think a 7.47 is the worst. No, a 4.6 up here. Still, that's ridiculous. The right back has 459 appearances for Atletico Madrid, 31 goals, but how many assists? 98 assists across the career, which actually is not as many as I thought there would be. I thought there'd be a bit more than that, to be fair, but 16 assists in this particular season is not bad. As for the left back, only 416 appearances for Atletico Madrid, but 117 for Iceland, the most we've seen out of all of these players so far. And again, 102 assists, so a few more than the other player, but no real standout season like we saw with the right back, who had 16 assists in one season. In the league, of course, this just counts the league stuff. We're not counting all competitions with these assists here. Let's find out though, are they still in the Icelandic national team? The answer's no. They're just not there. You see, they're the perfect players, they're still insanely good, but they have got other 33 and 34 and 30. Right. So they have got some players in here who are pretty old, but they're just not calling up the 4 greatest players of all time anymore. And this could be the reason they never win a World Cup. And this could be the reason they're down in 47th in world rankings. It's not ideal, that at all, is it? Let's look at the schedule. Going back to 2031, not a bad year for them at all. 32 was a bad year for them though, back promoted to the top flight of the UEFA Nations League, and they got absolutely battered. And actually, second round of European Championships, I missed that. That's equal best we've seen so far for them, so it's better than San Marino did, granted, better than they did, but it's still not quite what we wanted to see here. World Cup qualifiers did not go well, and at this point, I must imagine, we can't see the full lineups here, but they're not scoring goals, so they might have been dropped by this stage, potentially, these 4 perfect players. Heading into 2034, no World Cup for them, and UEFA Nations League Group B was okay. This does kind of suggest that they have been dropped from a team at this stage. 2035 was actually a really good year, and we can see the full lineup of the team here, but the perfect players are not there, apart from this guy, who is a regen with the name Perfect, because apparently Perfect is a name in Iceland now, thanks to this experiment. But yeah, just flicking through all of these, the perfect players are just not there. They've been dropped for quite a while then, by looks of things, and maybe for the good part, really, because they did quite well in European qualification, and they've qualified for the European Championships, but it's without these perfect players. So let me just simulate the European Championships. Yep, no wins and no perfect players in sight. Why? So, I think we've concluded that the perfect defence is not going to help Iceland win a World Cup. But if you want to see the San Marino experiment, that'll be on screen right now for you guys to go and see. And leave some suggestions down below as to what we could do next to try and get a country who shouldn't ordinarily win the World Cup to win the World Cup.